backers auditions, out-of-town tryout in, where were we, Baltimore to Broadway. So it was a job that was supposed to last for a while. I mean, we kind of thought we'd get a good year out of it, maybe 2. And we got killed with the New York Times Frank Rich review. And we were devastated. Everybody was just so heartbroken because we thought, oh, we would like to run at least for a couple of months, you know? And I think we maybe got 6 weeks out of it. So, yeah, it was so heartbreaking. But Howard was already working on The Little Mermaid with Disney. And actually all the Disney executives came to see Smile. So they came to the dressing room, I got to meet them, and that was really fun. We were so happy for him, so excited that he was bringing the Broadway musical to the animation studio and blending these worlds together. And when our show tragically closed, Howard just felt horrible. I mean, he felt so badly that everybody lost their job. And we all kind of like wandering around like, oh gosh, here we go, it's January, 6th or whatever the date was, and we've got to start over again. And so he invited a handful of us girls to audition for The Little Mermaid. And of course, none of us had been, doing animation or behind a mic or anything. We didn't know anything about it. So we just thought, for me, it was something to do on the way to the unemployment office, literally. Just something to do that day. And I thought, well, this would be fun. So I went to I think it was NOLA Studios, which was just a dance rehearsal hall with mirrors and just an empty room. And it was Albert Tavares, who was our assistant director for Smile, and who was working with Howard on Mermaid, who had a big reel-to-reel, old-fashioned reel-to-reel. A lot of you don't know what that is, but it's just a big, huge machine, and you press play and record at the same time. And laid down, we'd been given a cassette tape of Howard singing Part of Your World, and so I sang a little bit of that, and I just imitated him. And then I just did a little bit of the dialogue, but I had gone to the ladies' room right before, because they were like, you need to sound like you're 16 and, kind of a very independent spirit. So I went to the ladies' room, I looked underneath to see if anybody was in the stalls, and nobody was there. So I went up to the mirror and I started kind of talking to myself and coming up with, what the heck, how do I sound like I'm 16? And came up with something and then ran back in and did this process, laid down some dialogue, laid down a little bit of the song, and then like a year, went by, and I got a page on my pager, which is old-fashioned, and I had a roll of quarters in my dance bag because we had payphones. It was a long time ago, and I was at 16th and Broadway and went to the payphone, and it just said, "Call me," my agent. So I called her, and she said, "Well, I've got great news. You booked it." And I'm like, "What did I book?" She's like, "You're Ariel. You booked Ariel." And I just said, like, what is an aerial? I don't know what that is. I have no idea what you're talking about. And she's like, you got that Disney thing. I was like, oh, okay. So I started flying back and forth between New York and LA and recording it. And Sam Wright was in New York as well, only he was afraid to fly, so he would take a train across the country to work and record. And yeah, we had no idea that the film was going to be what it is. We had no idea. We knew things were up at the studio. We knew that all the animators had been moved off the lot, and they were on a kind of temporary housing trailers in Burbank, like on Flower Street, or Glendale, maybe Flower Street.
Oh, that's where I work.
Yeah.
Yeah, we get the trailers.
Yeah, we had the trailers, and these were just kind of like temporary. They were sort of put up. It didn't seem very permanent, and then all the animators were kind of shoved in there together in their little cubbies, little cubicle places, and so we were like, "What's going on?" And, there's no animators over at the lot anymore. But yeah, we kind of picked up that things were a little tense, and there was a lot kind of riding on this film, but we didn't personally feel that kind of pressure. So it really wasn't. I mean, we were going to remain anonymous, which was the plan. And then when the VHS would come out, you would freeze it and then figure out who the cast is and who played who. But we were never going to be, announced or told or like saying this person's playing this role, this person's doing that. It's just like you do the voice and you disappear and just go back to Broadway and keep doing your thing. So it wasn't until like September that I got a call before the film came out in November to go on press tour, 22 cities in 20 days, and my statement was like why? Why are we doing this? Well, we're gonna do something different. We're gonna reveal who you are, and you're gonna represent the film, and we're gonna tell people. And I thought, oh, this is interesting. Little did I know that my life was gonna, change so drastically in such a lovely, beautiful way. So yeah, that's the journey. That's a long time ago. Around 38 to 39 years now. So it just still is very mind-blowing to me that my life has taken this turn in such a beautiful way, when it was supposed to just be a one and done job, and then you disappear and keep doing 8 shows a week on Broadway. So, and here we are, all these years later.
Here we are, and we wouldn't be here without all the fans
That's
of
right.
Little Mermaid
That's
for over
right.
the years.
Absolutely.
So we thank all of you too.
Yeah.
Well, I know we touched a little bit on you working with Howard and Alan on this film. I think in those days, the films were so heavily anchored in music.
Yes.
It was such an important part of the stories, and they shaped the stories in many ways. What was it like working with Howard in a new capacity?
Right, yeah. Well, having just worked with Howard as my director and my lyricist on Smile was incredible, because we had a great working relationship and we knew each other well. He was a perfectionist, I was a perfectionist. I knew that I completely trusted him. So he was a co-producer and a lyricist for Mermaid, and not a director. But Ron and John Musker and Ron Clements, our animating directors, saw the relationship that Howard and I had. And I was really insecure and felt completely incompetent with getting this job. I mean, I probably told them multiple times, why did you hire me? Why did you hire me? I don't know what I'm doing. I'm very nervous. I don't think I'm right for this. I think you've picked the wrong person. And they're like, no. And Howard kind of stepped in. He's like, listen, Jodi, you can do this. I know that you can do this. And I said, well, I need you to help me. So they stepped back, Ron and John, and they let Howard direct me. So he was actually in the recording booth with me, which is really unusual. You don't ever have anybody in there, because their breathing makes noise on the mic, and he was silent. But, we did Part of Your World for 8 hours, I think, that day, and he was in that room the entire time with me, directing and encouraging and guiding and just pulling it out of me, to the point where, I was getting frustrated, or I was struggling with feeling like I wasn't giving them what they wanted. And so he was the one that said, let's turn off the lights. Let's just leave a spotlight on. Let's create this as if we're doing a staged production of a musical, and kind of speaking my language. It was also really hard for me to transition from singing on stage with 1,500 people and projecting and belting, to whispering and singing with very little volume. That was really hard for me. And but again, I just had him standing to my left, directing every breath, every feeling, every nuance, every pronunciation, the phrasing. I mean, it's all Howard, So I say this all the time, but when, if anything that you love about Ariel, that's Howard. That's what he created. Yes, I created Ariel, but I could not have done it without him. And of course, Ron and John and my animators, Glenn Keane and Mark Henn, sketching and just pulling everything out of me to create this character that we know and love. And, it's just been the biggest surprise gift from heaven. I mean, it's just like God has just given me this unbelievable gift that I didn't feel like I deserved. I also didn't feel like I was really qualified for this job, because there were so many professional people that were professionally trained as voiceover artists behind a microphone, much more so than me. And I mean, I kept hitting the microphone with my hand constantly. And the poor engineers, it's like, can you just control your hands? I'm like, no, I'm Italian. I can't. It's not gonna happen. And he was just like, we need to tone those down. Somehow you just gotta stop hitting the microphone with your hand. And, so I was such a new kid. Oh, I didn't know what I was doing. But yeah, it's just incredible to see the journey, and I'm so grateful, I'm so thankful, and yeah, anytime, that every week almost when I'm singing the song or I'm in the studio for whatever projects we have. And yes, I still record Ariel, and I'm very thankful for that. I get to pay tribute and pay tribute to Howard, to Alan, and to Ron and John, and to Mark and Glenn, because it took a team. It took all of us, to find who Ariel really is.
And you just got to do a cool event with the Disney on Broadway team a few weeks
Woo!
ago. Yeah, it seems like some of you saw it, celebrating what would have been Howard's 75th.
Yeah, it was so magical. Oh my gosh, when I got invited, I was like, I'm so excited because Howard's husband was there, and Howard's sister Sarah was there, and it was so beautiful and just memorable. It was very hard to sing without crying. I just kept saying to myself, just don't really think about the concept of why you're here, and looking out at Bill and Sarah and Alan on the stage. It was like very emotional, but I thought, I gotta sing. I really want to sing the song. I want to sing the song well. I want to sing the song the way that Howard directed me to sing it, because that's kind of like my job is to not really change anything. I want it to be that exact same sound that you heard the first time you saw the film, and it lets you have that trigger core memory of like, what did you wear? What did your bedroom look like? Who were you with when you saw the movie? And what relationships were important in your life during that time? And how did you play mermaids in the pool? And who was in the pool with you? So all of those magical moments, like I don't sing the song for me every weekend, although I love it because I get to have my trigger core memory of Howard and Ron and John and Mark and Glenn, and it's a beautiful memory for me, but I really sing it for all of you so that you can have that moment, for 3 minutes and 16 seconds of what that film and this character mean to you, and to hold the integrity of the character, maintain the integrity of the character. I hold that really dearly, and I take that responsibility very seriously, because honestly, there's really not too many people around that are still from our film. And many have passed, and many have left the company and retired and moved on. And so there's just a small little handful of us, and I have the freedom when I'm in the studio to tweak the scripts accordingly to make sure, because nobody knows how Ariel speaks as well as I do, and the words she knows and the words she doesn't know. And so, I am Ariel. I mean, we are one, and after all these years. So I kind of realize that I am the keeper of the flame for her, and hold that responsibility, pretty near and dear to my heart. I'm sure some people think I'm weird that I wear my ears and wear my Ariel t-shirts. I can't do it anywhere else but here in the parks, but people think, oh my gosh, you're like a walking advertisement, you're so old, why are you wearing t-shirts and ears and all that? Oh, people are, they say what they want to say. Not this group. Not this group, but people can be that way, and that's understandable. Everybody can speak their mind. But I just say, where else can I dress like this that's appropriate? I can't go to the grocery store like this, and in my town, my small town, I don't walk around with my Ariel shirts, but when I come to the parks, I get to be a kid. I get to go on the roller coasters and go crazy and wear my ears every day and wear my t-shirt, and I'm proud. It's like I'm proud of my character, and I love my character, and people say, don't you get sick of singing the song? I'm like, never. I never get tired of singing the song, ever. I mean, I can't even count how many times I've sung it in 38 and a half years. But it's such a beautiful song. It's iconic. It's a story song. It's an I Want song. It's a monologue put to music. And it's gorgeous. And it was written for me. So it's like, it's just the best of all possible worlds as a vocalist to be able to express yourself in song with a song that you actually love and care about and it means something to you. So no, I never get tired of singing the song, and it's an honor and it's a privilege, and again, I am the carrier of her, and I'm very, very proud to get to protect her and to pay tribute to the people that helped me create her.
It's wild to think that. Go ahead. You didn't even think you nailed it there when you were in the recording booth then, and we have, if you have a CD player, I hope you do, but honestly it's a cool collectible with these CDs. You'll get to take it home, but it's funny to think that so many Disney films since then have tried to create an I Want song based on the template of what you created in the studio there.
Yeah. It still is, it's, I learned this term recently from my kids, imposter syndrome, and I think I have that because when I meet people, I can be in a situation like on a red carpet or a premiere or some kind of an event, and I forget that my character, my song have affected people, and it's affected generations, let's say 4 generations now. But when I meet celebrities or recording artists or Broadway stars or TV or film stars, and then they are kind of tongue-tied when they're meeting me. I'm thinking of Mandy Moore. She was just so sweet when we did Ralph Breaks the Internet. And she was just like, you just have no idea. And I'm just like, yeah, but you're Mandy Moore, you're incredible, you're such a actor. But she's like, no, you don't understand. You don't understand. Like, I learned to sing from you. You're the reason why I wanted to sing, as a little girl. And so I do kind of have to shake my head sometimes and go, oh yeah, that's right. This has been around a long time, and it has helped people to grow up. One of our friends here at our table shared that it helped her while she was recovering from very, very serious illnesses and surgeries, that the song prompted her day each morning. So when I hear these stories, I just kind of go, wow, like it blows my mind that a song and a character and a movie have the healing properties for people. I have so many people that come to my table when I travel, so many people that share, and I love it. I love to hear their story. I have a Kleenex box at my table because tears flow, and people always apologize for their tears. I'm so sorry. I wasn't expecting to be emotional. I always say, please don't apologize for your tears. They're very healing, and tears are wonderful ways to ignite those feelings of whatever that is that can you tell me what's going on? And inevitably, it's a story about part of your world, Ariel, the Little Mermaid, how they grew up with it. It was their grandpa, it was their mom, it was that broken relationship, it was unfortunately an illness, a hospitalization. I woke up after being in a coma, and that's the first song that came to my mind when I was able to start thinking and speaking. I learned how to speak from your movie. I have so many people on the spectrum, so many nonverbals that have come to me and their parents to say, my child learned how to speak watching your movie. They learned some social skills learning how to communicate with. So like we don't have any idea what everyone is going through. And so the concept of like, when you meet a stranger, you just don't know what's going on in their life. I have a glimpse at my table for 3 minutes or 4 minutes privately, person after person, hundreds of people over the weekend, to hear their private moment of their story. And it weighs on you in such a powerful way that at the end of the day, when I go back to the hotel room, I'll be processing these stories that I've heard. And I feel so, grateful, blessed, fortunate, thankful that I get to be a teeny tiny part of their story, a teeny tiny part of their world. I mean, not to be cheesy, but I am. And it's like, it's mind-blowing to me, but I'm so thankful and so grateful that I get to be a little piece of their life.
Well, we're thankful that you're so willing to share with the fans and be with them, and it's cool to hear that you're even inspiring people like Mandy Moore.
Yeah,
But I hope, Yeah, I hope that inspires all of you to go out and do fun things and make great art and put things out into the world, positive things. And,
Absolutely.
Well, I know you mentioned some of the animators that you got to work with, and some of them are fellow Disney legends now.
They are.
Can you tell us about working with them?
Yeah, well, Glenn Keane and Mark Henn, not only are they incredibly brilliant animators, they're amazing humans, and they're such lovely people that they're part of my family. Glenn and his wife Linda and their kids, I used to babysit their kids. I lived with them for 3 months when my husband and I were separated in 1990. I didn't have a place to go, and they brought me into their home. I lived with them, I lived with them when we were separated. I mean, we just became instant family, and he had told Disney he was never going to animate a princess. And when he heard the story of Ariel and he saw that I was cast, he went to them and said, "I've changed my mind. I want to animate Ariel. I'm going to animate Ariel." And they were shocked, and he did, and we just made an instant friendship, and we still have a beautiful friendship, and I'm so grateful for he and Linda and their kids. And then Mark Henn, just the sweetest man, and his precious family, and to honor him at D23 last August, he was completely surprised when we all came out on stage, and we were so happy that
How many of you were there?
kept a surprise. Yeah. So all of his princesses showed up at the Honda Center to present him his award, and he was just completely blown away. And we're so happy that we kept a secret. That was one we really wanted to, but he is a very humble man. And I think that was just so overwhelming, for him. But we were so thrilled. We were so thrilled to be able to honor him. So my animators are my friends, and that's an unusual relationship to have. And I'm very grateful for that. It was a lot of fun to be able to watch the process through the 2.5 years of going to the studio and seeing the development of Ariel and where she was coming from and where she was going to as far as her creation. So, and like Glenn said, Ariel did not come alive until you showed up. She was a thought and a pencil sketch. And he said when I sat in the studio with his Walkman and his sketch pad and his pencil, watching me in the studio, he's like, man, she just came to life right then and there. So it's just a neat birthing process of how you create an animated character. And some of you may know, some of you may not know, but the voice comes first, and then the animation comes after that. And that's because the animators do have a sketch, maybe something in mind that the team has come up with, but they don't come to life until you're in the studio. And once they hear those voices, the creativity just starts to spill. And it's a really beautiful process.
I'm glad you got to present Mark his Legends Award. Fun fact, I handed Jodi her Legends Award on stage in 2011. I got a call, it was my first year in the archives, and they called me that morning and said, "We need somebody to hand out the award who can hold them, they're really heavy." So I think Mark got a better one than you did, but I apologize.
Yeah, in fact, my Prince Eric that was on stage with me, I think I worked with him with D23 last August. He was on our team, and he's like, "I was your Prince Eric when you got your Legends Award." I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's so fun."
Even he couldn't carry it, it was too heavy.
No, it was too heavy. He didn't carry it, because only you did. I don't think he carried it.
No, it was just me.
We just took a picture. It was just you having to carry it. That thing is heavy.
Yeah.
Where do you keep it?
It's actually in our dining room on a beautiful buffet, and it's right there in the center. It's, it's just mind-blowing to have that. Some of you have heard this story, but I'll tell it very quickly. So sometimes at Disney Character Voices, DCV, which is our division, which started with Mermaid in 1989 with Rick Dempsey, who's a dear, dear friend of mine. He's since retired from Disney, but Disney Character Voices does what we call a refreshing period. So a refreshing period is when people no longer sound like their character, and then they're recast, or they're just refreshed. We don't call it firing or anything like that. It's just called refreshing. So we were in a season of refreshing in 2010 and 2011. And so I was like, okay, this is cool. I've had a great long run. I've been here since 1986. I said, this is great. So if I'm getting refreshed in 2010, this is totally fine. It's great. You just kind of get ready for the season when the princesses start to have this happen. So I get a call. I get a call from Disney, Chris Montana's office. So I'm ready for my refreshing. So the associate picks up, please hold for Chris. I'm like, great. So this is, I didn't have a cell phone. I think I was on a landline with a cord or something. But, so hey, Jodi, this is Chris. I said, listen, I'm just gonna tell you right now, I've had a great run. It's been incredible. Thank you so much. I've had the time of my life. I'm good, I'm great, it's fine. I'm good, I promise, I'm good. This is great. And he's like, what are you talking about? I said, well, it's time to refresh. I mean, we're in that season. I'm good. He goes, I don't know what you're talking about, but I was wondering if you would come to Disneyland in August and we'd like to induct you as a Disney legend. And I dropped the phone on the floor. And he's like, hello? And I pick up, I'm like, what? He's like, what are you talking about? I said, I thought you were letting me go. He's like, no, I was asking if you wanted to be inducted as a Disney legend. So, obviously, it was a huge shock, a huge, wonderful surprise. And I'm still awestruck that something like that has happened when I think about so many of my bosses, so many of the people that got me to where I am that have not been inducted. You do start feeling very strange as a team because it's a team effort. Nobody stands alone in animation. And at that point, Mark hadn't become a legend. I mean, it was just like, wait a minute, so you feel immediately like, well, can you pass this on to one of my bosses? Because I feel like that might be, no, Jodi, we really want to do this. I'm like, oh, okay. So I was a little reluctant, I think, just because pomp and circumstance is not really my cup of tea, but I of course, was a huge honor. It's a huge honor, absolutely. But again, I'm much more thrilled when my friends are being acknowledged, especially those that have been there longer than I have and carried me through to bring me where I am today.
That's great. Well, I know you touched on character voices. Is there another character that you've ever wanted to be able to voice that wasn't one of yours?
I want to be able to voice? Well, anytime something comes up, I'm always up for it. Let's see. Something that I would want to do? I mean, somebody that's already been established?
Yes, so.
Well, I grew up with Cinderella, so I kind of always wanted to do, not a revoicing because I don't want to touch the classic, but if there were ever, that time, they would never see me as Cinderella because once you're a princess, and you don't really cross over into the other princess land. And it would be fun to do Cinderella. I did have the opportunity to do a sound match for Sleeping Beauty, just for a test. It was like a little test thing. And they knew that I was a lyric for soprano, and they were like, do you want, yes. So I went into the studio, I got to match to screen. That was super fun. Yeah, the classics are always fun.
I also like to tell people, she wasn't just the voice of Ariel, she was the voice of Vanessa.
That's right. Yeah.
She got to be a villain too.
Right, people, yeah. And I've actually done a villain thing on something for Aladdin. I think it's like his sister, Jafar's sister, like Nasira or something. I did get to play a bad person. I got to be a villain, and that was really fun and screamy and yelly and super fun.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, you've got to do some other characters over the years. Can you tell us about what it was like slipping into Barbie?
Yeah. Barbie was fun. Barbie was not even an audition process. It was very strange. So it was after Mermaid, and the agent called and said, Pixar is doing, Toy Story 2, and Mattel had been invited to have Barbie in Toy Story 1, the original Toy Story, and Mattel said, absolutely not. We're not going to, license and be part of that. And then they saw the huge success and they said, can we start in number 2? So Barbie Barbie showed up in number 2 and 3. And I was cast, and I still think it was, I'm like, really? You don't want me to come in and, try some voices? No, the team was like, no, we know what Ariel sounds like, and we're gonna find Barbie. We'll figure it out, but we want you to do it. I was like, okay, this is amazing. We had so much fun. So we had a box of Barbies, and so the team that was there, the directors, producers, we all pulled out these Barbies and we played with a box of Barbies and we started talking to each other, and without really a script, and just started playing doll. We basically just played with these toys. And that's kind of how we found, what they wanted to have for her. And so like for the outtake section, we just did those all wild. We just, had fun being crazy. And people were throwing out like, say this, say that, try this, So we did a lot of that sort of collaborating. But it was really fun. That was a really fun film to work on. And then to come back for 3 and have her be such a boss and for her to kind of save the day. It was really fun, because the goal was like, I'm not going to play Barbie as a plastic doll. I mean, she has to be real. We've got to make her real. We've got to make people care about her. So, and make her be authentic and vulnerable and real, So I was really wanting to make sure that we maintained that, made her feel like she had a real personality to her so that people would care about her.
But she's still funny. So
Yeah.
you strike a great balance.
Good.
I feel like you may have just struck a new fan theory that maybe all of the characters' voices are how the kids that play with them imagined them in the Toy Story universe.
There you go.
I'm gonna go down some Pixar rabbit hole now. So are there any other favorite roles that you've had over the years?
Weebo was interesting because that was an afterthought. So Weebo was thank you. The people that thought that's sweet. Weebo was an afterthought. So she was always going to be computer generated voice, always. And literally not even a month before the film released. So the film is finished. And I get the call, can you be the voice of Weebo with Robin Williams? I'm like, yes, thank you, that's amazing. But I worked by myself, and the film was finished, and everything had to be matched to picture. So it was wonderfully challenging, which I love ADR. I love matching to picture. Give me a time, give me a beat, match it, sync it right with the mouth. Well, of course, she didn't have a mouth, but so that was great. But the timing of the scenes with Robin and Weebo were already locked in. So I had to get all those words in, and so it was very technical and challenging, and I loved it. It was super, super fun. And I did get to meet him at the premiere in New York City. He was very sweet, very shy, very humble, very quiet, and kind. And it was a really, really special night. So that was a fun project to work on.
So what was it like for your kids to grow up with a mom who's an actual Disney princess?
I know, it's so crazy. So for both of the kids, I waited until they were like 2.5 and just tried to, it was hard because they were coming to the studio with me as soon as each of them were born, because I nursed around the clock. So they would come and, Disney character voices. If my husband wasn't there, all the employees, they would watch the kids while I was in the studio. And they had a playroom with toys and stuff, so it was great. But I decided to introduce the film to both of the kids the same way. So I stood next to the TV, and I would speak and sing at the same time, and then their heads would go back and forth for a while until the realization is, Mommy is Ariel. Ariel is Mommy. So that correlation, they were able to kind of grasp that. So my son, once he put 2 and 2 together of when it was time for me to sing and do different types of things, that meant that Mom wasn't going to be with me. So he would be very quick to say, no sing. No sing, Mommy, no sing. So the second I'd start singing, even if it was around the house, just singing at the house or singing together in the car, no Mommy, no sing, Mommy, not you. And so everybody thought that was funny. He's like, his mom is Ariel and she can't even sing. He won't even let her sing because he made that correlation. That means Mommy's gonna go to this place and I'm not gonna be with with her because I gotta stay outside of the room while she's in there doing her singing thing. So it was funny. But yeah, they love it. They're so grateful. They're Disney diehard fans, and they love the parks, and they've grown up obviously with this whole experience for them that they are grateful for and thankful for, and everybody in our family's in the entertainment industry. So Delaney's now in musical theater, which we thought she was going to be a soccer phenom. That was her thing, was going to go to soccer in the Olympics. And all of a sudden, she was like 14, she decided, I want to try musical theater. I'm like, do you know how to sing? I mean, do you know how to dance? She said, yeah, I think I can. So she did, and so she played Ariel last summer in Miami, for the summer. And, very surreal going to the show, and somebody captured that and shared it with the world at this private little moment. You know how the internet goes. But anyways, it was just phenomenal to get to see her play Ariel, and just to watch her come up with this character and develop her on her own and make her own was really special, really special.
So you've gotten to return to Ariel so many times, whether it was the sequels, whether it was the TV series or theme park attractions, all sorts of things. Is there a favorite moment of coming back to Ariel that you have?
Well, every time I come back to Ariel, when I'm in the studio or when I'm standing on stage singing a song, is beautiful. It's a lovely, lovely moment and experience that I'm thankful for. Makes my heart really happy and really full. But I think that experience of creating the original film always surpasses, just because of the team that I had around me and Howard, and to be able to let his legacy live on, it is probably the most special way to express Ariel, would be through our original film.
So cool. Well, I know you mentioned Ralph Breaks the Internet.
Yeah.
Did you all get to record together at all on that?
No, unfortunately, we all recorded separately. Our film we did record together, but it doesn't happen anymore, and you're always by yourself. But at the D23 secret reveal that year, there were a handful of us princesses. We weren't all together, and then at the opening we did gather up a few more, but we've never all been together at once. There's always been someone or two missing.
I'll work on that.
Yeah.
We'll find a time. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, I like to think that there's a secret Disney Princess group chat.
Yes, there is. There is, yeah. So we have a text chain. The ones that are primarily, it's me and Paige, who does the singing, speaking of Belle, Linda Larkin, the speaking voice of Jasmine, Irene Bedard, the speaking voice of Pocahontas, and Jodi Kuhn, the singing voice of Pocahontas. So we have a little chain that we stay in touch and connect with, and then in various Comic-Cons we get to be together. Anika's on that as well, Anika Noni Rose as the singing and speaking voice of Princess Tiana. So all of us have done various conventions together, and they're super fun. We have a lot of fun together. And it's fun to meet the fans and have them see us all together as friends. Makes it, really special.
That's great. Well, I know it's kind of cool that you're back here celebrating after all these years, the reopening of a show that was created just because the movie was so big when it came out, and it just shows you how this legacy has gone on and there's new generations. Do you have a favorite theme park attraction or thing?
Yeah, I do. I mean, listen, I haven't been to all of our parks yet. Hopefully one day I will. But of course, if it's like a favorite attraction, let's just say a thrill attraction. Right now it's Cosmic Rewind. I'm in love with that. Oh my goodness. And I'm so weird. I have to do it like 6 times so I can hear every song. So I love it. And I do all 6 in a row. So I know, it's crazy. But I just love the music that goes with the ride. I think that just really enhances it, makes it. And I have a favorite song, it's September. September goes rhythmically and melodically, and just the tempo goes perfect with the ride. Much more, for me, personally, than any of the other songs, but that's just me. Everest Expedition is number 2. It was number 1 for a long time until Cosmic Rewind. And the president, Jeff Ollie, he was like, which one do you like better? I said, I'm always gonna like Everest. He goes, no, you're not. Just wait till you go on Cosmic. And he waited for me when I came off Cosmic. He waited for me. So I'm like, yeah, you're right. So a little bit more. It's just that sensation of flying and floating that you don't feel like you're attached on a roller coaster. I think, and if you let your mind go with it, which I do, it is a free fall space adventure, which I love. So that's would be my favorite thrill attraction, shall we say. But now my new attraction favorite is going to be The Little Mermaid, the musical adventure. Absolutely. Yeah, I want to catch that a few more times. I've seen 2 Ariels and we have 12. So I would like to catch all of them eventually. I might be able to catch 2 tomorrow, back to back, when they change shifts. So then I'll be up to 4. So then when I come back, I'll continue my quest to see all 12 girls.
With 12 Ariels, that's a lot of sisters.
Yeah.
Wow. I can't even do that math. Well, since we're here at lunch, do you have a favorite theme park snack?
I do like the churro with the chocolate sauce, but I do love a good Dole Whip. I do like a Dole Whip that has a couple flavors in it. Whenever we have the opportunity to twist up 2, I do like that. So yeah, those are probably my go-tos.
Classics.
Yeah.
All right, well, I wanted to make sure we had time to take a few questions from you all. So does anybody have any questions for Jodi?
That we haven't already touched?
Yeah, in the back there.
So I know that you worked on Metal Gear Solid.
Yeah.
So I was wondering, why did you keep your identity secret for so long?
Very good question. Okay, so you got to go back 20 years. So when I auditioned for Eva and Metal Gear Solid, a lot of people don't know, but it's a video game. It's intense. It's a war game. I guess you call it a war game. The casting director, when I booked it, and she sent me the script, I'm like, I can't do this, I'm sorry. And she's like, what if we tweak it? Like, what could we do? And I'm like, yeah, the content, and I'm a brand, and who I am as Ariel, it's just, we gotta be really careful. So we switched up all of the dialogue to make it somewhat feasible, mostly feasible, yes. I think I have a couple of words that I felt okay about saying. We kind of fine-tuned the outfit, and a couple of scenes were removed. But then when it came right down to it at the end, I just said, I'm not feeling great about this. I told her I'm grateful for the job, and the team was lovely to work with, and Konami was amazing. I said, but I'm feeling uncomfortable. She said, well, I think we can solve this problem. We are just gonna remove your name. And I was like, okay. And it's a mature video game, so I knew that my people were not gonna be finding this. So she said, let's come up with a name. So she's like, what was your dog's name? I said, well, my dog's name was Suzette. She's like, okay, and did your dog have a middle name? I said, yes, Suzette Monet. She goes, we're gonna do Suzette Minet. And I'm like, okay. So that was my name on the credits. And we kept it that way. The game went out, and nobody knew, and nobody said anything. Every once in a while, in a blue moon, somebody might send a message or say something like, did you? And of course, I just would say, I don't really know. You just kind of have to hoo. Well, then Konami came out to me last April, about a year ago, and said, we're doing a new game. We're going to do an anniversary special. It would be really fun if we could reveal, who you are. How do you feel about that? And I said, I think enough time has passed. I think my brand, people know who I am, and I feel good about that. There's nothing that I'm doing on it that I feel really uncomfortable about at all. The dialogue, the scenes, and that. So yeah, I think we can go ahead and do that. So now, after it was revealed in November, I think it was Thanksgiving weekend, and I was in San Francisco, and somebody came right up to my table with something to sign, and he was like, I knew it! I knew it! So it's very funny, very funny. Anyways, that's the story. Again, it was just, it was in that time frame that just wanted to make sure that everything that I was doing was matching, with Disney and stuff, and with who I am as a person.
So you're saying we should get you in the next Deadpool movie? All right, any more questions?
What was it like working with Pat Carroll? She's
Yeah.
somebody's never talked about with the movie.
She's incredible. She's super funny, super maternal, loving, kind, boisterous, hysterical, but so kind and so helpful because I had to imitate her cackle. I needed to imitate, qualities about her character in order to do Vanessa. So she was so helpful to me, and I'm so grateful. But yeah, the fondest memory I have is when we opened our attraction, Little Mermaid attraction at Disneyland. Yes, California Adventure.
Yeah.
And she and I were there for press day together. And we got to ride the attraction together like 2 or 3 times while they were capturing content and stuff. And she was just like a little kid. She was like 6 years old. Ooh, I just laughed riding around with her, and I'll always have that sweet memory of her. But so kind, so talented, so gifted, yeah.
Great question.
Yeah.
Right there.
If you could go back and give yourself advice at like any era or part of your life, what would you go back and tell yourself?
Probably 2 things. That's a good question, because when I'm talking with my kids and talking with people, on a weekly basis, and Howard Ashman taught me this lesson. The first one was to get rid of perfectionism, because I was a perfectionist to a fault, and so was Howard. But he was brilliant, and I appreciated his gift of that. It's a gift, but it can also be something that really holds you back and keeps you from being free, free to fail, to fall forward, to fail forward. And I was afraid to do that for a lot of my life. I'm not afraid anymore. I do things now when I'm scared. Back in my 20s and 30s, I wouldn't do things if I was scared. I would only do things that I was qualified for. But I wasn't qualified to do Ariel, and he taught me how to let go of that perfectionism. So I think that's one thing I would encourage. The other thing that I'm learning, and I'm sure all of us are, and our children, is compare and compete. That's brutal, to compare and compete. And of course, we live in a world with social media. Social media is wonderful. It's a great way to stay in touch with people, great way to communicate with people. It can also be very, very detrimental, And I think the element of comparing and competing, and I speak this for myself as well, as I'm in the, mature aging process, is learning how to just be who we are individually and be happy with who we are and wish well to the others and build them up, encourage them, cheer them on, to get rid of that competition thing. So compare and compete can be immobilizing and very destructive and very detrimental, because then we are jumping out of our story and our lane of our gifts and what God's given us, and the story that God wants me to tell is not going to be the same as you. And so if I build you up to live in your journey and your story, and you build me up, then we have 2 people living in their full potential, as opposed to me wanting what you have, then I'm not fulfilling mine, and I'm also putting you down and making you feel less than, So it's like, it's a lose-lose situation, as opposed to a win-win situation. So I think those are 2 lessons that I wish I knew when I was much younger. And those are the things that I'm trying to impart upon our children to learn, and they are learning them in their early 20s. I wish I would have had that opportunity, but I didn't have anybody speaking into my life those elements of characteristic qualities to learn how to truly identify with who I am, because I didn't know who I was when I was younger. But now I kind of feel like I have this opportunity to know who I am, walk in my purpose and in my calling, in my path, but cheering others on to do the same. It's like a fingerprint, we're all uniquely designed and created, and God has designed each and every person to have their own individual fingerprint. That's like our story as well. Each one of us has our own story. I can't do what Justin does. He can't do what I do, but he's excellent at what he does. I pursue excellence in what I do, and then we can cheer one another on, and we're both walking in our purpose. So it's a win for everybody, you know? So those are two things I try to encourage others. I wish I had learned that years ago. I wish I had.
Can you come give that speech at my sister's graduation? Because I'm not going to remember all of it, but it was great. I saw a question over here.
Yeah, do you have any words of encouragement or advice for aspiring performers?
Yeah. You know, it's a talking to my daughter about this yesterday. It's a very volatile, crazy industry. I always encourage people, if you have skill sets in a variety of places, investigate all of them, because this one is a very unstable one, you know, especially in the performance element, not necessarily for our team. Our team has consistent work hours, they have consistent paychecks, we don't. You know, I'm a cast member, but I'm an independent contractor. So I'm job to job. I don't necessarily know what next year is gonna look like. But that's been my whole life. I never know what's coming around the corner, and I'm okay with that because I'm used to it. Our whole family operates like that. There's a lot of people that don't operate well, and that's not good for them. They need stability. So I always ask the young person, you know, why do you want to pursue this? If you want to be famous, you want to be rich, you want to be a star, you want to be noticed, I'd really take a look at that. Those are not great reasons to pursue this industry, really not. You need to pursue it because, for me, I felt like I had a set of skills that I could share, and if I didn't share them, I felt like I was going to explode. And there was nothing else that I wanted to pursue. And I wanted to try it, and if I could make a living and pay my bills, I would keep going. But if I couldn't, I'd find something else. So we live in a stage of, you know, 15 minutes of fame, and I think that kind of distorts some people's pursuit of performance. I always ask them, why? What's your why? Is it because you want to be noticed? You want people to clap for you? Because that's really not healthy, you know, to look for that. But then I tell people, if you do have a set of skills and you do feel that need to share your gifts, you can share them in a variety of ways. It doesn't have to be in a Hollywood blockbuster film or on a Broadway stage. There are a million avenues to go to share your skill set and your gift set. Millions of ways that are very rewarding and very fulfilling creatively. I have experienced them. And so if you have a skill set, I tell young people, you need to pursue it in whatever form that looks like, whether it's at your church or in your community or at your school, whatever that looks like, because you don't want to have regrets. That's the other thing. You want to avoid that. So go for it when you're young, give yourself a window of time, experience it, but try a bunch of different things. You might find joy and purpose someplace else affiliated with it, but maybe not in front of the camera, or maybe not on stage where the spotlight's on you, but affiliated with it. You know, there's a wide range to experience it. So I do tell young people, try it, give it a go, so that you don't have that what if kind of burning later on in your life. I've met people that are grown that wonder what if in any capacity. We don't want those what ifs. I think those are hard to live with. But I also think being realistic and finding out what your temperament is and what you can handle as far as this crazy business.
See one right there.
So you talked a little bit about how you brought your children to the studio and such. Growing up with Ariel yourself, when you did return to the C2, did you see a lot of like reflection getting to be a mom as that character and growing into your real life role as well?
Yeah, because I was actually pregnant with my daughter while I did return to the sea, and Tara and I were singing, and Delaney, and I didn't know I was having a girl, we kept it a surprise, was dancing and jumping all during our recording sessions. It was really pretty special to play a mom while I was a mom. And it was really, really, really fun to work with Tara. We had a lot of fun working on that film, yeah.
Coming from from the stage, do you ever see yourself going back to Broadway? And if you could pick a show, like, what would you want to do?
I get asked that question a lot. You know, I'm really fulfilled. I left Broadway with Crazy for You, and it was such a perfect experience across the boards. And all of those magical moments were precious to me. I don't have a need, but if the phone were to ring, I would consider, but not a long run. I don't see myself doing 8 shows a week for a year. I don't think I want that amount of responsibility with my family and with my other projects that I'm involved with Disney. And I don't want to miss out on the things that I feel like I'm really called to do with my company. So, but I'm not saying no. It would just need to be the right situation. And there is one that has reached out, and we're seeing if there's a 3-month possibility of, I would consider that. I would consider it if I can make it work with my family and my work with Disney.
As long as it's not during Destination D23.
As one of my bosses sitting next to me was saying, it better not conflict with any of my dates. I guess I shouldn't have said that out loud to you, Justin. Yeah. Justin's like, wait a minute, what about this date and this date and this date? Well, I did say that I would make sure it worked around
Yes.
Disney dates.
We're on your calendar.
Yes, you are on my calendar.
So speaking of Broadway, did you get to be involved in the development of the Broadway production of The Little Mermaid at all?
No, but we did get to go as a family to opening night. And I just boo-hooed and sobbed. And then had to do the red carpet. I was like, I gotta pull myself together. Yeah, it was very magical. It was really special to be there.
Yeah, I was just, mine's more of a comment, but I got to see you at Club 54 Below. When you performed with the other Disney princesses coming out. Would you ever think of going back on doing more shows with them? Because I know they do a lot of touring.
Well, I do show up with our Disney concerts, with our princess concert. I was a surprise here in Orlando. I was a surprise, I think, at D23. But yes, I will jump in on a few of their dates. And again, it needs to coordinate with my other Disney responsibilities, but yeah.
That show was the best.
Yeah, it's a great concert. It's a great concert.
All right, I think we have time for one more, so we'll go in the back
we
there.
got 2 friends now. They have to choose between
Who has the best one?
You have to ask us to know which the best one is.
I think you can both go.
Yes.
That's fine. We'll do one at a time.
You go.
My brother and I are big Disney pin collectors. Of course, I collect Ariel. I was wondering if there's any like Disney items that you collect.
Well, I have a lot. I got gadgets and gizmos. You want to think of the box? I got 20. Probably more like 20,000 after all these years. Of course, fans give amazing, beautiful handmade gifts, and they're just so incredible. But I do have a few pieces. Of course, I have my Legends statue. I have my Giuseppe Armani statue on the dining room table. She's gorgeous. And then I have my dear friend Paige O'Hara's paintings, the original paintings from our Steel Box collection. I have the front and the back, and I have those originals. My husband bought those for me for my birthday a few years ago. And so those are hanging up triumphantly in my home, because not only because they're gorgeous, but because they're from my dear friend. Because Paige and I have been friends for 45 years.
Wow.
From New York. Yeah, she did a Broadway show with my husband. That's how I met her when I was dating him. So
cool.
We've been friends a long time. Yeah.
Oh,
And then we have
the one more in the back there.
You did a cameo for the movie The Enchanted. Was that your first time being on a film?
Yes.
And can you tell us your experience on it?
I'll make a long story very short. Okay, yes, I have not done a film before. The director was one of my animators, one of our secondary animators. Kevin Lima. And he thought it would be really fun to do the Easter egg Mickey Mouse hidden thing by sticking princesses in, and you have to find them in the movie. So literally I was just supposed to have one line and just be next to the tank with the song playing. That was the joke. and then just have one line and then leave. But when I got there, we just had so much fun that they just kind of developed it into a scene, and it went so well, and we laughed, and we just had a great time. So then they wrote me another scene to do with Patrick. But the biggest joke is that I thought I was working with Patrick Duffy from Dallas. That's what I grew up watching, Dallas. So I was really excited to meet Patrick Duffy. So I'm on the set in New York, which is a glass building like 35 stories high, and I'm in the center little console thing. And the elevator opens, and I'm thinking Patrick Duffy's gonna walk. It's not Patrick Duffy. So this guy walks towards me, and they're like, here's Patrick. And I'm looking at him like, hi, Patrick, I'm Jodi. It's nice to meet you. So I turn to somebody, I'm like, that is not Patrick Duffy. And they're like, who's Patrick Duffy? Who's in this movie? And they're like, no, it's Patrick Dempsey. I'm like, who's that? Who is that? So I meet him, he's super nice, and of course I tell him right off the bat, I've never done this before. I don't know what I'm doing, but I take direction well. If you don't like what I'm doing, just tell me. You're not gonna hurt my feelings. Kevin, same thing. Everybody, tell me. I kept putting my hand in front of the camera. They're like, don't do that. Don't talk with your hands. And this is the camera. When the red light goes on, that's where you look. I'm like, okay, I'm teachable. You can tell me whatever. But we're in this building that, like I said, 35, 40 stories of all glass. And I look up, and there's all these people's faces pressed against the glass, staring down at us. And I'm looking around, and I turn to Patrick Dempsey, and I'm like, what's going on? Like, what is this? And he's like, well, you know. And I'm like, no, I don't know. He's like, well, I'm McDreamy. Or what's his name? McDreamy? He's like, well, I play this character, I'm McDreamy. So I said, so all these people have their faces pressed against the glass to watch you? He's like, well, yeah, I'm on this series. And of course, I'd never seen the show before. I didn't know what the show was. And so I think because I just didn't care, and maybe I didn't bow down to him or something, I don't know, we just really got along. And he had kids, same age as my kids. We were talking about homeschooling. He's like, we're gonna move to North Carolina, blah, blah, blah. And so we just chat. And so Kevin's like, he goes, you've made a fast friend with him. We got to keep you here. You bring out the best in this guy. I'm like, oh, okay, great. So that's why it kind of expanded after that.
That's so cool.
But I was very disappointed that it wasn't Patrick Duffy.
Great story. Well, thank you all for being here. Let's have a huge round of applause for Jodi.
Allowing me to be part of your world for many, 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 many years. I really, really appreciate it. Really do. Don't take it lightly, and I don't take it for granted. Very thankful for our fan base.
Well, thanks for being here. We'll see a few of you tonight, and we're excited to watch Little Mermaid on the big screen. But hope you have a great rest of your day, and go see the show at Hollywood Studios.
Go see the show.